Hello, what's up? What's up? This is the Produce Your Own Life show. My name is Rodney. I am the host and creator of this show. Make sure you like, rate, and share this show on Apple, Spotify, Google, iHeart, every podcast platform available. On this show, we say to stop watching Inspiring Lives and become one. Make sure you go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, Produce Your Own Life Network, share the channel, like the videos, engage the videos. YouTube likes that. And today, I am happy to have with me a very, very special guest to the show. And she hails from the field of education. She is a former teacher, former award-winning K through 12 teacher, principal, started a charter school, but now she is an author. She is an actress, and she is also a voiceover artist. Without further ado, show some love for my guest, actress Meg Lynn. Thank you.
Woohoo! Thank you. Thank you. I'm also going live on my IG handle at I am Meg Lynn. So thank you. It's my first time actually going live on my own Instagram. So thank you, Rodney, for teaching me how to do all this. And super happy to be here.
Oh, well, you're welcome. It's going to be a good time. A good half hour, 40 minutes or so. So I think you'll enjoy it.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
I'm excited that people are going to get a chance to know who you are.
Thank you.
Know more of your story. You're welcome, because my show, my content, what I like to put out is great content, great people who are inspiring people, great people who are changing and controlling the narrative. And you are just one of those people to do that.
Aw, thanks. Yeah, I'm super excited to share my story with everybody.
Well, we're going to get into it because you guys heard when I introduced Meg that I said that she was a former K through 12 award-winning teacher. But guess what she does now? She is an actress. So my question is, how did you make that decision to go from, this education, the field of education, which is very noble, to the very adventurous field of entertainment?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. I haven't even told everybody who knows me in the education world that I went into acting. Some people know and other people don't. I just transitioned in the last about 3 years or so. And so, like you said, I think a lot of people are shocked because they were like, you got awards, you're helping students get into college, why leave something that, and I love being a teacher. I love helping people. I love being a school principal as well. And so, it was a hard decision. I still do substitute teaching while I'm pursuing acting.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I coach school leaders. So that's my side hustle, and I still love it and make a difference. But honestly, it's actually an interesting, fun story. I was working with high school students a couple of years ago, and a lot of the students I worked with, they're the first ones in their families to go to college.
Wow.
And so over the summer, I was talking to one of the seniors who just graduated, and she had gotten into college. She would be the first in her family to go to college. And I asked her, I said, so are you excited? Are you getting ready to go to college? And she shied away from me and actually looked embarrassed. And I was like, is everything okay? And she was like, I'm not going to college anymore. And I was like, well, everything, what's going on?
Yeah.
And she was like, I want to be a singer. And she was like, my brother found some friends who are traveling across the country. This was pre-COVID. They said I could be their singer and travel with them. And because I actually secretly, a lot of people don't know, I wanted to be an actress and an author, and I want to be a pop star and everything, right? Like a little girl, you want to be everything. But I didn't pursue it. And so I think as soon as she said that to me, and I said to her, like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing you got into college, got accepted, and you can put that on hold because you can always go back to it. I said, my big thing is like, be safe. I don't know who these people are, be safe, my mother hen came out like, just be safe. But like, I fully support you pursuing your passions. And I saw her face go from like embarrassed to like relieved and happy that like I supported her, and I went home from there, and it was interesting where I was like, there's some of that little girl still in me that was like, I didn't have that adult encourage me to pursue my passions.
Yeah.
I grew up with a family where they're immigrants to the US, and they want they meant well. They loved me, but they wanted me to be safe. So they wanted me to take the safe path, like get a good, stable job. And acting is not known to be that.
Yeah, it's not very stable. Yeah, not very stable.
Yeah. And so, for me, like I'm passionate about like wanting to give people the opportunities. Like I want the people, like when I was a teacher and a school principal, for me, it was like, I want to be able to provide a good quality education for students.
Yes.
So that college could be a path and that it wasn't not a path because they didn't have a good education or because somebody told them they couldn't go,
right,
or that they didn't belong there. Because I know, unfortunately, there's some people who are told that in schools, which is like so not okay to me. And so, but I also don't want people to feel like that they're less than if they don't go to college, if
right,
that makes sense. Like so that was kind of, I was just self-exploring at that time of after that student experience. And so what happened from that is I got a life coach, and started exploring my parts of my childhood dreams.
Oh, keep going. Yeah, don't worry about that.
Like 3 or 4 different cameras going on.
Yeah.
So as Rodney takes care of the deck, I'm gonna, entertain you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So for me,
we're good to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So I ended up getting a life coach, and which I highly recommend and love. And I've done some life coaching as well, with individuals, and that just brought out. I wanted to live a life of no regret, and I wanted to overcome fears.
Wow.
So like I had like a lot of secret childhood dreams. Like I want to be an actress, want to be an author. I also wanted to learn how to surf.
What?
Learn how to skateboard, and so I learned how to surf for the first time a couple years ago.
I wish I had a picture of that.
I do actually go to my Facebook. So if you look up I am Meg Lynn, there's me on the board. I think my Instagram, I think I have me riding a wave in Hawaii too. So
wow.
On one of my little history videos. So yeah.
You really are adventurous then.
Yeah. So I mean, that was my goal because again, I didn't always feel like I was. I think there were moments of my life I was adventurous, and there were moments of my life I held back and let fear overtake me at times. And so yeah, so that's one of the reasons why. Yeah.
You said a lot in there. You talked about overcoming fears or even dealing with regrets. That's one of the things that I strive to live for every day, because I don't want to be that person that gets to, God willing, I get to lay on a deathbed and family all around and, and not look around and have these regrets. Denzel Washington was giving a speech one time. I'm gonna say this real quick. I'm gonna pass the ball back to you.
Yeah, no problem.
But he was giving a speech one time, and he was just talking about, as you are progressing in life, and you don't want to be that person that's lying on your deathbed and you look around you and all you see are the ghosts of your dreams, the ghosts of your visions and what you wanted to do in this life. And they're standing there with you and they're saying to you, we came to you in this life, but you never sought to make us happen. So now we all go to the grave together. So that's a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
So I love what you said about that, overcoming fear and not having that regret. So
thanks.
That's
powerful. Yeah, since you brought that up, some of it is bittersweet, right? So I did have my mom pass away a little bit before that interaction with the students. So I think that also was on my mind, where she passed away unexpectedly. I got a phone call from my dad, like, hey, your mom's in the hospital, get here now. And I was a workaholic. And so I didn't spend as much time with like family and friends. My mom and I didn't have the greatest relationship growing up. And so I think that's part of it too, a little bit too, of like, hey, that's a wake up call of how precious time in life is. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, which leads me to some of the things we wanted to talk about today with your leap into the entertainment industry. It wasn't done like carelessly or anything, but there was a lot of passion and push behind that. So just, invite us in a little bit. I'm going to sit on your couch and, I'll jump in here and there, but just share a little bit of your story so people can understand, because a lot of people are really trying to find inspiration. What am I here for? Purpose. So your purpose.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. So I actually really struggled, talking about my mom, growing up, I actually really struggled with mental wellness and mental health. Partially because my mom struggled with mental health. She struggled with schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
And at a young age, I had a very unstable childhood. And like, this is one of my kind of coming out to the world on your podcast about this, because it's something that my family and I kept secret and hush hush for a very, very long time. So only like a small number of people know up until today. But every time I tell somebody the challenges that I grew up with, people keep telling me, like, you got to write a book, you got to share your story. And when I heard about your podcast and you're talking about, like produce your own life and how do you overcome challenges and trauma, I just want to share with people out there, like, I hear you. I went through trauma. I had both like kind of physical and emotional instability at home, where there were days I wasn't sure if I was going to be alive. It was definitely, hard to grow up in that environment, to the point where as early as about 9 or 10 years old, I don't know the exact age, but I know that I was very young, maybe around 3rd or 4th grade, that I started to have suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation, where I thought, like, maybe the world will be better without me. And like, how sad is that? Like, how young, because I've talked to other teachers and educators who were like, oh, why are we doing these suicide preventions in elementary? That's too young. And then I would tell them my story, and they're like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that even kids in elementary school may have those thoughts. And so I am just so grateful that I am here today to share and hopefully bless the other people if you're struggling. And if you don't, with your self-worth, please know you are worth it to stay alive and be here. You have something, a gift to give to the world. And so I want to encourage you that I am so grateful that I didn't follow through,
Me too.
Thanks.
I'm pretty sure your husband is grateful.
Yes. Thank you. From that, another thing I struggled with was my identity. So not only is it, mental health and instability and trauma, and I think something you talk about is like, when do you start taking control of your life?
Yes.
I think some of the challenges for those of us who had childhood trauma is there are a couple different paths we can take. And one of the paths that I took, that I think a lot of people can relate to, is that we grew up very quickly. And I felt like, well, if my mother is not in a state to be able to be my mother, that I have to take that role at like age 8,
Yes.
And so like I learned at an early age, like, well, it's either I give up, which, to the point of thinking about whether my life was worth it, or I'm going to have to like do something about it. And so for me, part of it was education. Part of it wasn't always like the loving place. A lot of it was like, if I do well in school, I can get away from home, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to as well. Like, if I just do well, I can go to college, I'm going to go far, far away, So I'm sure people can relate to that as well. But, I am grateful for education, because it definitely can open doors and help for sure. So both unfortunately and fortunately, I guess I learned at a very early age to take control of my life in that sense.
Yes.
But in terms of like some other challenges as like either actives, creators, or just people who are in a place where you're like, I don't know if I'm like happy with the path I took, or I did something because people told me I should do it. But my heart really wants to do this. I want to encourage you to listen to your heart, because life is short, and to surround yourself with people who will support you. That there are people, reach out to Robbie and I. We're here. We're here. But another thing dear to my heart is what's been happening lately around the world and in the country. And recently we had Asian Pacific Islander, Heritage Month. And that's another reason why I also like really hated myself, honestly, when I was little, and felt like, oh, maybe I don't belong here in the world at all, let alone in this country. I was the first in my family. I'm Chinese American. I know sometimes I look ethnically ambiguous or mixed, but I'm actually full Chinese American. I'm the first in my family born in the US. And what was interesting was I was discriminated against at an early age by my own family, like my own Chinese people, and Americans who were mostly non-Asian people that I grew up around. And so I remember as early as 4 years old was the first time I met my grandparents on both sides. And one of my grandmothers, I remember, said to my parents, like, "What's wrong with your daughter's face?" And it was because I don't look like the stereotypical Chinese to Chinese people.
Yes.
But then to non-Asian Americans in America, they look at me and automatically like, "Oh, you're Asian. You're some kind of, Asian." And so then I grew up at a time where I would hear, like, unfortunately, the stereotypical ching ching chong chong, go back to your country, and being a young girl, you're like, I was born here. I'm an American.
Right.
So you get these both, either direct, but mostly indirect, subconscious, things in the media that, like, I didn't think I thought I was less than unless I was white, honestly. Like, I thought, like, I wanted to be white. I wish my parents were white. I started to hate my own family. I hated my background. I hated myself. And that's just not cool.
No,
we know that now, that's not cool. But that is how I felt. And I'm sure other people can relate. And so that's also, I think, why I wanted to go into acting and do some creative storytelling growing up, is even as a little girl, I wanted to share and be like, there's so many other stories. And as an American, like, I also love being an American. I understand a lot of the privileges we have in our country compared to other countries, but I also know a lot of the pain that I experience personally in the country as well, right?
Exactly.
It's that, how can we overcome, the trauma and pain we've had and embrace the positive pieces and share that love to other people. And so that's what I'm hoping to do as an actor and a
Not
writer.
hoping, you're doing it. Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
doing it. You're going to do it.
That is what I'm going to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
And let's take the word going out. You are doing it because you stepped away from the so-called security that we call, of a career, traditional type career. And now you ventured into the waters of the creative world. Well, I love this life. It's crazy at times, but it's the most influential industry in the world. It really is. And you have the opportunity to really change the narrative, like what you thought about as a child.
Yeah.
Now you can impact that.
Absolutely.
And you got the power. Like, remember the old song, I got the power. You got the power. Yeah. You got the power to really do that. And then you get to see what's really in you. And I believe there's so much in each and every person. And there's nothing wrong with somebody who does a 9-to-5, but when you have that calling to step out to do something else and you stay in that 9-to-5 because you're just, hey, I just want to be safe and, comfortable, you're missing out on your purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing now. You was like, okay, let me just jump. I don't even know if you had the parachute like attached when you jumped, because when I jumped, my parachute got ripped up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know about you.
Yeah. I mean, it took, I did jump with not as much planning as probably people would advise. And so then it took like maybe an extra year before, I was like, oh, after I jumped, I'm like, oh, how am I gonna make money again? Okay, let me like backpedal a little bit, So, but it also feels so freeing too. Like, I do know people who did see me afterwards and they were like, oh my goodness, you seem like a totally different person.
Yes.
In a positive way. And so it is so freeing. And it's scary. It's all the emotions.
Yeah, it's okay.
And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Because you're going to be better than okay.
Yeah.
What you're doing, some little girl, some little boy is listening and watching this. And I know we have viewers like all over the world who may listen and watch this, and they may say, I can do something else too.
Yeah.
I can do more than what I've been put in this box. And I believe that there is a lot in you. There's, from when I talked to you and heard your story, I was like, I'm talking to somebody who's going to really change this industry.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ditto.
And what you did in the corporate world, that's why I put it, it prepared you, because now you have the skill set to produce and create your own projects, but then you have the talent as an actress. So all that comes together, voiceover, everything. So it's like, it makes you like this superhero.
I love to be a superhero and play one.
For real.
On TV and movies. Yeah.
There you go.
Super Meg.
Super Meg. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes me think now. So Superman. If you had a superpower, what would that be?
That's a good question. Oh my goodness.
And if you need me to start off, I can. I got some. If you need to think about it for a second, I'll help you out.
I know. See, my personality, I see the like pros and cons of everything really well. So like my first two go-tos would be like if I can turn myself invisible and like be like kind of and then show up, kind of like the invisible cloak that like Harry Potter has. But then I also know that's a double-edged sword. The other thing would be like mind reading.
Awesome.
But again, also it's like maybe I don't want to know what you're thinking. That's why I was like, oh, maybe the invisibility is a little bit better.
That would be pretty nice, though. You can read minds and then you can be invisible. Oh,
if you could do both, that'd be incredible.
Could you imagine the amount of information you can get going into rooms of like Google and all these other places and just standing in their conference room, just listening? Like, okay. All right. That would be a nice superpower.
Oh, for sure.
Man, I'm thinking superficial. I'm thinking all like laser beams and strength. And you're like, no, I want the more powerful thing, because the mind to me is our strongest muscle.
Yeah.
Like the most powerful one. So if you can deal with that, oh man, you're the most powerful one.
Yeah.
Like this in Marvel, like Professor Xavier, it's one of the most powerful mutants because he can control the mind.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. So since you brought that up, I hadn't really thought about that, but
but that's a nice combination of a superhero. Invisibility and mind control.
Yeah, being able to shoot out fire is pretty good too.
But to control the one who shoots the fire is even more.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So
good point there.
You guys might have to chime in on this and tell us
what superpower.
Yeah, what superpower we should choose. So while you're listening and watching, let us know, because you might help us put together a new superhero here.
That'd be fun.
That'd be fun. So, but what else is happening in your world? Because a lot in the last 3 years, a lot is going on, and I know at times your head probably spinning a little bit.
Yeah, a lot is going on. I became a dog mom a couple years pre-COVID.
All right.
A dog mom for the first time, rescued my first dog. His name's Casper, and he's like super, like he's my little baby.
Love dogs.
So yeah. And so because I wanted to write, be a children's author, but also write some other books too, I ended up writing my first children's book. And I wanted to draw the pictures, but that didn't happen. I'm not as gifted as an illustrator. That's also, when you go pursue your passion, you also have to kind of know your limits. So wanted to be an illustrator, but I think I stopped at like the third grade in terms of my drawing abilities. And so what turned out was my niece, and it is a really great artist. And so and she is only in high school, and my brother was like, "You still working on that children's book?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Sally can draw. She's actually learned and picked up some skills the last couple of years." Okay. So I looked at her stuff and I was like, "Oh my goodness, she is talented." So so she helped illustrate the book. So we're in the final stages of I only know entertainment term of like post-production, whatever you call it.
Hey, you're in post-production of your book. Post-production of the book.
Yeah, we're self-publishing it, and so we're going to publish it in Amazon.
Yes.
Hopefully in the next month or so. So that's the goal.
And the title of the book again is?
Oh yeah, the title of the book is called Casper the Rescue Dog.
Casper the Rescue Dog.
How we got into the children's book is from my dog Casper. It's loosely based on true events of Casper, and has some like social emotional components. I'm hoping that kids could be used in schools and families with kids to just learn about, if they're scared, like rescue dogs can be, and other pieces of the love you can get from a dog. And yeah. So
Casper, this is kind of like a memoir of Casper, huh?
Yeah, it's a memoir of Casper. Yes, Casper is going to be a superstar.
Oh my!
We can think about giving him superpowers too.
Now, when you have everything that's happening for you, if you have one of like your past students or a young student just comes to you and just because you gave such good advice to that one student, you've been in the industry for 3 years now. What would you tell them if they were saying, I'm really feeling like I want to step into the creative world, but I don't know how to do it? What advice, like what would you tell them?
Yeah. I think the two biggest things is really know yourself and stay true to yourself. And I think when you're younger, you're still learning that.
Yeah.
And so that would be like my second piece is surround yourself with people who are going to uplift you and help you learn your strengths and who you are.
Yes.
And that's part of why I ended up, even though I'm married, I use my maiden name Lynn for my stage name, Meg Lynn. And you'll see like in my Facebook and Instagram handle, it's I am Meg Lynn.
Yes.
And partially because Meg Lynn was taken, but I'll be honest.
Yeah, you gotta do that sometimes.
Yeah, because then I had to figure out like, oh my goodness, Meg Lynn's taken. What else am I gonna do? Right? Is like, do I do actor Meg Lynn? Do I do,
I thought what you picked is perfect.
Yeah, the official Meg Lynn. And I ended up picking I am Meg Lynn. See, this is like, I'm helping you guys out if you're in that stage and you're like, oh, everybody already took my name. I came up with I am Meg Lynn because it was part of what I shared was that I used to be ashamed, right? I used to be ashamed of me and my name and my background, that Lynn is Chinese and that I am Meg Lynn, right?
Yes.
And so in a lot of ways it's taking back ownership of my identity and my roots, that I am Meg Lynn and I'm proud of it, and I love myself now, but I didn't before. So yeah.
What you just said is the essence of my mission. It's taking ownership for our lives. Produce Your Own Life. That's what it's birthed out of, is that we have to take personal accountability for our lives and for the results we want to see. Yes, I have a strong faith, but also faith without works is dead. So if I say what I want to do, but I don't really exercise that, I can say all I want to. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and we have to. I use a term, get out the boat. We got to step in the water where it's a little rocky, but you have to be able to step in there. Because what it does is it just like you said, how free you are, it causes you to focus though too. Because if you don't focus on what's keeping you, you're going to sink. So you're like, okay, I don't have this boat, I don't have nothing. So I have to keep my focus now. So that's the beauty of what we do now, because it gives you almost like laser-like focus on what you want to see happen. And I heard Will Smith say a long time ago, he said he never had a plan B for the industry. He said, because it distracts from plan A. I was like, I understand that, but that is scary. But I also understand that when you step in and you say, this is happening, this is my life, I'm walking in, I'm not looking at anything else, because people will tell you, yeah, that's good you're doing that. And I know people are like, well, Meg still has all this education. She's entrepreneur, everything else. So if that doesn't work, she can always step back to that. But from our conversation, I don't see you even thinking that way. That's over. That life is gone. Am I correct?
Yeah, pretty much for the most part. Like I said, I am fortunate that I can do like substitute teaching here and there.
But that's like background. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But honestly, really, yeah, my heart is like, jump in. You have to give it your all, because I don't want it to be like, I don't want it to be a self-fulfilling prophecy of like, I only did it a little bit and then went, see, it didn't work, right? You don't know until you like go all in. So I know that is so hard to not, I did not have the plan B, but you know what, you're going to be enough. And I used to do career counseling too back in the day.
There we go.
So you have transferable skills, like go all in and do the writing and do the creating and do the acting, because so that you go all in knowing you gave it your all, so that if for whatever reason you decide to pivot, which is also totally cool, like it happens, like we're that's life.
And it doesn't make a person a failure.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But know that, like, don't think that you wasted all that time and years. Like, you can absolutely use those skills in different ways. And I think even more so now.
Yes.
And in a lot of ways, I don't know if that was as open back in the day that people, but I do feel like that's back then. Let's not look back to, the way things were, or people said this back then. But the reality is things have changed and people are more open to people pursuing their personal passions and transitioning into multiple jobs, and that is the new future. So let's embrace it and take advantage of it.
And it's crazy, but I love it. I love my time in corporate America because it gave me the drive to do what I'm doing now. But it's like, I don't regret it. And I'm excited that I won't have that, oh man, I wish I shoulda, woulda, coulda. And then I always think that I'm building legacy. Like the production company my son and I established is JRC Legacy Productions. And it's about what I do is preparing for the next generation to come after me, the generation after that. So I'm changing my family future and how we think, how we work by doing what I'm doing. That's what I'm looking at. I was like, yeah, it's cool to be safe. There's nothing wrong with that. But do I want to work for 40 years, me personally, retire and don't really do much else? That's not me. For somebody else, that's great. I'm happy for them when they do it. But just don't judge me when I don't do it. That's how I feel.
Yeah. And I do want people to know, like when we say pursue your passions or what you're interested in, like some people absolutely love, like that's how my dad is. He's just really good at like, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm really good at it. And I'm really happy. And I like it being safe and steady. And that is like, it totally makes him happy. I see it, you know, like, you know, he doesn't do as well when things are like not as unknown, you know, and it stresses him out. Well, then don't do it. It stresses you out. Yeah. If you're going to be stressed about it and it's not going to make you happy, then don't do that. You know? And so I see that contrast and I'm like, that's cool. You know, like you said, like it doesn't make you less than. It's just we're all different.
We're all needed. We're all needed on this planet, and we all have gifts. That's what makes us so special and unique.
Yeah.
You know, we all look different. I love the fact that you know, we all learn how to walk around looking alike and liking the same things. And you know how boring this world would be. It would be awful. You know?
That's so true.
Yeah, it would be really bad. And you know, I love the fact that you're an author and you're writing a book for children. Do you plan on writing another book too, or something? Because I know I plan on writing a book. Another book.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of different ideas. Like I have a couple different ideas, storylines to continue the Casper series as a possibility, but I also have a YA young adult story in mind that I've had for a couple years that I'd love to put on paper as well. And then I have my hands in a couple different scripts that I'm writing as well. So I did. We're in the post-production of a film that my friends and I put together, met them in acting school, and we got together. You know what they say is take charge. Take charge of your life, like you said, not sit around for people to cast you, but to cast yourself. And so that's what we did is we wrote a film, shot it on our own, and cast ourselves as the main stars, and it's in post-production. We're editing it ourselves too. So it's all you know, a learning. We're not super great at all those things, but we learned a lot. So it was such an incredible experience, and we're in the home stretch now, so we're hoping to have that finished and sending it off to festivals. So
I'm applauding you right now. I'm trying not to clap because I don't want to rattle the mic, but I'm excited because this is what it's about though. Because when I talk to so many people, they ask me about, hey man, I want to work in the industry. I want to do this. I was like, that's great. I was like, but you have to be a part of producing your own projects because there'll be times when you may not be auditioning as much. So what you gonna do? You know, quit the industry because you're not getting called by Hollywood? I love Hollywood. I love what I do here, but I also have to own my career. And what I found is that the more you build your table, the more Hollywood knocks on your door saying, hey, we see what you're doing there. Come on in and do this over here now. So that's what happens. You know? So what you're doing, you're teaching right now. You stepping in and you say, okay, I know how to do this.
Yeah.
And with everything you're doing, I love it. You're learning post-production. You learn how to do it yourself. And it's cool. So this is beautiful. I love it. You're taking ownership, man. I'm like,
thanks.
It's like, I feel like you just ran through and scored a touchdown and spiked it right now. That's how I feel like. It's like real, you know, I'm trying to just keep my little energy right here because I'm really excited.
I love the energy. Keep it going. I will say, you know, again, for those of you watching, like I have watched so many of these like podcasts, YouTube channels, and all of the above too. And I will tell you, like people make it sound like it's so much easier than it really is. I will tell you, like it's not easy though. So it is work. It is hard. But you learn so much. So even like making our own film, it was like we learned. It was so incredibly enlightening to just learn like what we didn't know and what we did know, and it's super fun to see it come together. But wow, it was not as easy, and you know, as everyone makes.
It's definitely not easy.
Everyone's like, just get a bunch of friends together and just make a film, you know. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And that's kind of how it came across. It's like I just kept watching all these videos, and I was like, okay, I need to stop watching these videos. I need to just do it. I got some friends together. I'm like, let's do it, you know. And then it was like, oh, it's not that easy.
There's a lot of fine print in there. Oh, just make a movie. There's a lot of fine print that we don't see.
Yeah, so we definitely also made a lot of mistakes, and so that's like another thing too, is to be okay to fail. Which for me, I grew up a perfectionist, I will say.
Well, this is teaching you some lessons.
Yeah, and so again, like my closest friends who know that I'm such a perfectionist and a control freak, that they were like, "You're going into acting, how's that working out?" Because they know, they're all like watching with like smiling, like, because we know in this profession, it's like fail after fail, you just get like nope, didn't like your audition or whatever, you know, like,
or you just don't fit, or they book you and they change the role.
All of these things. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, you don't really know what the reasons are a lot of times too, and that's what's also hard for somebody who's a perfectionist and a control freak is just know this industry is so different from everyone else. It's like you go on an audition and then you never hear from anybody ever again. If you don't book it, and so you're like, oh, okay, like, moving on. Like it's so interesting, but it has been so good for me to exercise a different part of me, to be more like let go. So
you're flying though. You're soaring, and you have a lot of friends who are looking at you like, wow, Meg is living. So I understand it's very hard what we do. I'm not going to say it's easy, but when you walk in your purpose, it makes it something that's joyful. You have joy even in the midst of just having like, oh, this is hard, but I still love doing it. It's hard, but it's so that's crazy. It's weird.
It does, yeah. And I do feel like a kid sometimes, like just like being able to see myself grow and and go, okay, I didn't give up. Like, okay, so I may have messed up here, but like, look how amazing, I overcame it, and now I did XYZ. Like like, oh, I made a film. Like, how cool is that? I wrote a script. And so
it's huge.
Now I have a children's book, like just these baby steps, So it's like every time, but just know, like, for every one of those, there's like hundreds of failures in between, and that's part of the process. You don't get the wins unless you learn from the losses. So
when you're making a cake, don't you break a bunch of eggs?
Yeah, sure. There you go.
So you got to break them to make a really nice cake. You got to just keep breaking the eggs. So
I haven't heard that analogy. I love it.
Just break them, Then I got something nice to serve to the people one day. Spike Lee, I bet if you sit down with him, some of these directors, George Lucas, if you look at the story of Star Wars and what George Lucas had to go through to get this movie out, they didn't believe in it. Hollywood was like, whatever. Nobody wants that. It's one of the highest grossing films, whatever series of films in the history of filmmaking.
Yeah.
And people are like, whatever. Sylvester Stallone, people like Rocky, whatever. Yeah, we don't want the story. Then they tried to buy it from him, and he was like, "No, you can't have it unless I play Rocky."
Yeah, because he owned it.
Yeah,
and he was in control.
He was like, "No, this is me. I'm Rocky. That's why I wrote this.
Yeah.
So if I'm not playing Rocky, you can't have it." So it's like that's power.
Yeah.
And what you're doing. And I got a quick story about the show Baywatch back in the day. This is about being prepared and constantly having stuff ready. A lot of people don't know how the show got discovered. There was a lifeguard who was working on a beach out here, and a producer, executive, high-ranking producer, he was at the beach. His son was in the water, started drowning.
Oh my goodness.
The lifeguard saved the son. As he brought the boy to the father, he said, "How can I repay you?" And the lifeguard said, "Hey, it's my job. I'm supposed to save lives out here." He's like, "No." He's like, I rank very high in Hollywood. I have a very high executive position at a production company. How can I help you? How can I repay you? He was like, and that's when he was like, I have this script that I've been writing about a lifeguard. He was writing about his life.
No way. I've never heard this story.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
And sure enough, I'll be ready. Baywatch comes a few years later, you got Baywatch. So
oh, wow.
It's about being ready.
Yeah.
And constantly having your material going. Like certain stories that you write, you may not actually turn it to a film yourself, but Michael Jai White, he's one of my favorite actors. He played Spawn back in the day. He's played in a ton of movies, but he produces his own films also. I had a chance to thanks to a very good friend, Wendy Elaine Wright, who's a very good talent manager here. She opened the door and she brought in 15 actors to spend some time because her and Michael Jai White are very close friends, to sit down with them for 2 hours and just talk business. And he just shared the fact that a lot of the scripts that he wrote, he thought he was going to produce, he ended up selling to production companies.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it ended up being another stream of income. He was like, I don't care if they never produce it. Hey, they pay me for it.
Yeah.
They pay you 5 figures for a script you write. Hey, thank you. Or 6 figures, whatever. Thank you. So some of the stuff could be something you're writing and they'll buy it. And it's like, okay, fine. So you write, you know what you're writing for possibly being purchased by a studio. Like, hey, great. If you like it, you like it. But he told me, he said, I don't play the lottery, but he said in this industry, it's like you have a lottery ticket every single day. You have to show up because he said you can one day be, nobody knows who you are. Next day, the very next day on a billboard, life completely changed. That he said, that's why you have to continue to show up every single day. So that's the beauty of this
That
industry.
is so true. That is, yeah, I use the same analogy of the lottery. Yeah, because it is like playing the lottery, but like you said, it absolutely increases your odds if you're prepared.
yeah. If you're ready, yeah, it definitely helps.
Yeah. So, yeah, and shout out, I love Wendy as well. So
she is amazing.
Yeah, you are not connected to Wendy. She has amazing resources. So
her platform is incredible. So Wendy Elaine Wright, we're giving you a shout out because all you do to help so many people in the industry, she does it, and she really does help change a lot of people's lives. So she's really cool. But I also have to give a shout out to my manager, Michelle Brown, NB Talent. She's in Aqua Talent. Got show some love. They're amazing. They get me in a lot of rooms. They get me in a lot of rooms.
Yeah.
So they're my representations.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and speaking of that, because I know a lot of people are like, how do you get representation? So shout out to my reps at Eris Talent Agency.
Yeah.
It's I really got lucky, like you said. It's being ready and then networking opportunity, right? So it's hustling.
You have to
and perfecting
hustle,
your craft. So like I'm still in acting school. I've been, as soon as I decided to become an actor, enrolled in acting school, and continue to I've studied at several different ones, but the one I've been at for about 1.5 years now is Identity School of Acting.
Yeah.
So shout out to my family of the Identity family. They're based in London, but they came to LA a couple years ago, and so we pivoted online like everybody else during COVID, and we're getting ready to do an online showcase. With my classmates, and highly recommend it. Especially, as an American, we want to compete against the British actors.
Because we need to be ready, because that's why a lot of jobs are not taken.
So that's a lot. I'm a bit of an overachiever too, so I'm like, I'm gonna go and learn from the best. Why not?
Hey, no, you better be an overachiever in this industry.
Exactly. So I'm like, oh, where's the British actors training? How do I get in on that?
What I love that you were just talking about is the fact that we have to treat this as a real profession. One thing that does bother me is when somebody will say, "Oh, you're doing that acting thing." I'm like, no, this is a profession. The acting thing is me just playing around doing this every once in a while. No, like my whole life is vested in this now. My wife trusts me to work hard and make this happen. This is a profession. I was like, I don't know about that to them, but
it is. And so just to come full circle about how I got my agent being pretty new, like 3 years is still pretty new to suddenly to be able to get they rep me both commercially and theatrically, but to get a theatrical agent who is representing you in TV and film, with only a couple of years of experience is hard to do. And so I'm super, super grateful. And part of it, like you said, was a profession where I met a director on a music video shoot, and he was like, "Hey, Meg, you are so professional."
Yeah.
Like he said, I stood out. And honestly, I wasn't like trying to like do anything, different. I was just being me, and what I knew in my previous job was like come on time and respond to emails and, and writing complete sentences or something like that. Right. And so he was like, no, you stood out in your emails, like just in your emails alone, like how I responded. I was like, really? He was like, yes. And then he said he watched me during the like breaks and lunch
Yeah.
and how I interacted. And I was like, nice. He was like, and you were nice. And you like interacted and talked to people like nicely and
Yeah.
professionally. And so then he connected me to, he was like, I work with, I get my actors from this one agency a lot. And
Wow.
so I think they'd be a really good fit for you. And it didn't happen magically overnight. So
Yeah.
they did see my resume, and at the time I didn't have as much as I do now. And
Yeah.
so they were like, you know, you're still a little too green.
Yeah.
Come back, you
Yeah.
know? And what happened was then I did a showcase, and that agent happened to be there. It was a total coincidence, but it's
Wow.
that like just putting yourself out there and
Yeah.
doing the work. I did a bunch of these showcases over and over and over.
Showing up.
And showing up and got nothing and got nothing and got nothing. And then finally I was like, I know you. And then so she also did the same. She's like, don't I know you? I'm like, yes. You know,
It's
and
like,
so,
it's now. Time is now.
and so then she got to see me perform live, and
Wow.
and then, you know, one thing led to another. And so it just keeps showing up
Yes.
and keep being professional. This is a job and it is a profession,
Yes.
you know. Yeah, and people will notice that like you're serious, you know.
Yeah. You will, and you know,
Yeah.
Meg, I really do. I appreciate you just sharing your story and coming on and talking. I like to give the guest like, you know, some time to kind of close out, and then I'll finish up like 10 seconds. But if you want to take like a minute and just, you've been given a lot of good nuggets, but if you want to drop a few more, and I'm gonna give you a minute to go ahead.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, go with it.
You know, my biggest thing is just thank you for showing up and listening to my story, and I hope that you share that with other people. If my story and my experience has touched you, please share this when it's recorded, you know, the footage with your friends and families and loved ones. But also, you know, just some words of love and advice for you is I want to hear your story. Like, and I want to, you know, if you've had stories like mine that you've been, for whatever different reasons, like scared or told not to tell it, you know, tell it. The world needs to hear your story now. Like, we need it and we want it. And whether it's in a book or on a podcast or in a script or on TV or film, it doesn't even have to be that big. It could just be like telling your family or loved ones just in person, you know,
Yeah.
something that they may not have ever known. And they're like, I wouldn't tell you now, you know, like, but then also surround yourself with those who will love and embrace you.
Yes.
In case people don't receive your story well, please know like that those people who say no to you, they're not the final say.
No.
Just be like, okay, I want to go, you know, like,
Yeah.
and there's going to be, for as many people who are, you know, lack of a better word, haters, there are so many people who are going to support you and cheer on for you. And so, you know, make sure you surround yourself with people like that. And if you don't know them, like, we are here.
Yeah.
And so you can find us, reach out, and we will be here for you.
And how do you want people to reach out to you?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and I see people on now live. So thank you. Yeah. So it's, again, I am Meglin, Meglin. So on Instagram and on Facebook, it's I am Meglin, and my website is IamMeglin.com. Surprise.
I love it though. That's how you got to brand yourself. You just do it all across the board, make yourself easy to find.
Yes.
So I am just very grateful that you came on the show. I look forward. I think one day we'll probably be working together.
Absolutely.
And,
Or superhero show.
Yeah. It might be a superhero show. So you never know. ABC, NBC, y'all pay attention. CBS, look out. Fox,
super
Sony, Marvel.
Casper will have his little cameo, his little superpowers in the background.
Exactly. We gotta have a super dog too.
Exactly.
Have a super dog. So, but the way I close out my show is I just really just show gratitude to you. I thank you for coming, and I tell everybody to stop watching Inspiring Lives and become one, because we all can become an inspiration to someone else. And with that being said, remember to like, share, and rate this show. It's available Apple, Spotify, iHeart, every podcast platform. Make sure you rate it, please, because the algorithm is weird with that. And then on the YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe, Produce Your Own Life Network. It is a rapidly growing network and influencing and connecting with a lot of people. Like the video, watch the whole video. Don't just watch 2 minutes, watch the whole video, because you got to watch to the end and get all the nuggets. And I want to thank everybody for participating with us. Instagram, thank you guys very much for the love and being there with us. And we are getting ready to close out. Thank you very much, Meg Lynn. And we are going to look forward to seeing a lot of great things coming from you in the near future and seeing you on the billboard very soon.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Take care, everybody.
You're gonna have to save that.
I'll take care of that. Go ahead.
This too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, no, you
Can
can.
I end this? Here we go. Bye, guys.
Bam. Bam.